Just a quick note before we start this show. I'm joined by two guests this week, one of which is Jake Hughes, who you can find on Twitter at @JJHughes_. He is the editor of St. Mary's Musings, and one is Zach Lowy, whose name I decided to pronounce in the intro and in the kind of credits section as Lowy, and I don't know why. I know his name is Zach Lowy, and yet I decided to do it wrong. So apologies to Zach, because he deserves better than that. Let's get on with the show.
You're listening to the Southampton Delivery Podcast, a podcast dedicated to the Southampton Football Club and all of the SFC fans.
If you want to have guarantees, you have to buy a washing machine.
Monte with a scooping header!
We don't lose a match, either we win or we learn. And today we learned.
It's infield to Mane, 25 yards out. Lovely ball for Bella. Onside, 1-0. Buffon shot! Oh my word!
Unbelievable. He ran around the pitch like Bambi on ice. It was very, very embarrassing to watch.
And now, your host, Matt Markstone.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Southampton Delivery Podcast, a podcast and newsletter dedicated to the Southampton Football Club and all of the SFC fans, available right here on southamptondelivery.com. My name is Matt Markstone. I am the host of the show, and no matter where you are, no matter how you may be listening, whether this is your first time or you've been here before, thanks for making the show part of your day. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope that you enjoyed the second half of that match against Sheffield United. This marks, I think, the first time in a long time. There was a tweet sent out from Tom Murray last week that this is the first time that Saints have taken all 18 points from the newly promoted teams, I believe in the Premier League at least. It ended very, very well. And it didn't really start that way. If you think all the way back to the beginning of the season, things just didn't seem to go our way. But I think this is the most positive end to the season that we've had in some time. And things are already looking decent going into next season, with Saints looking to bring in Mohammed Salisu in the coming days. It sounds like the only thing that we're waiting on is for the club to announce them, which we all know Saints will do whenever they want. So hopefully that is all true, because I've gone all in on it, and we have some guests on the show to talk about Salisu as well. So this week we are going to talk both about the Sheffield United match and a little bit about the end of the season. We'll save the big end of the season stuff for the next couple of weeks, but we'll also take a look forward this week to the coming of Mohammed Salisu. So joining me this week is Jake Hughes, the editor of St. Mary's Musings. You can find him on Twitter at @JJHughes_ and also at St. Mary's Musings. If you don't already follow St. Mary's Musings, you should. And St. Mary's Musings is also partnered with the Oh When the Saints podcast, so you can get links to that podcast and St. Mary's Musings and Jake and everything in the show notes, so be sure to check them out if you haven't done so already. And then after my conversation with Jake, I talked to Zach Lowy. Zach is on Twitter at Zach Lowy. He's also the co-creator of Breaking the Lines. You can find them on Twitter at BTLVid. You can also get articles and more at breakingthelines.com. They wrote a scouting report on Mohammed Salisu a while back. I read through that and contacted Zach, and I'm more than happy to say that he agreed to give us some time. So we'll get his breakdown of Mohammed Salisu and how he performed this year in La Liga and all of that, and what we can expect from him if he does indeed, or is indeed announced by Saints going forward. And I just think that, the game itself yesterday against Sheffield United, the season, didn't start well. It ended pretty well. And hopefully we kind of keep this momentum going forward. And I do want to say, if you haven't listened to the final episode of Total Saints podcast, you should. We will miss Ben and everyone involved with the show, and I wish everybody well. And hopefully I can convince a couple of them to join this show as guests and things like that. So hopefully you won't have to hear the end of all of their voices. And I look forward to it, and I hope you do as well. But that does it for now. So quite a lengthy show, so let's get to it. Jake Hughes of St. Mary's Musings and Zach Lowy of Breaking the Lines. There is a link to the scouting report that Zach and everybody wrote at Breaking the Lines, so you can click that in the show notes as well. Lots of links in there this week. So once again, thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you on the other side. I'd like to welcome back to the Southampton Delivery Podcast, Jake Hughes. You can find him on Twitter at JJHughes_. You can get more from him at St. Mary's Musings. Jake, I would say it's been a while, but it hasn't really been that long because we did a Patreon episode not too long ago. But happy to have you back on the show and welcome back. And how are you?
Very well, thank you. Yeah, great to be back on. It has been a short period of time in between podcasts, but I'm happy for that. It's always good to talk to you.
Yeah. For those people who are not patrons, we kind of just sat and watched. What game did we watch? I don't even remember.
It was Brighton.
Brighton. Just me, you, and Freddie from the Ugly Inside just kind of sat and watched and discussed stuff and talked about the game, and it was a lot of fun. And I think the patrons enjoyed it, but we're not doing that today. This is post game, season officially over, and I don't know. We'll talk a little bit about the Sheffield match and a little bit about going forward. But I would say the Sheffield match was a little bit like our season in that the first half, not a lot to write home about. Some mistakes, not really great play. Second half, though, more than acceptable. Pretty exciting, good, strong finish. I think that kind of sums it up from my perspective. Yeah.
I mean, pretty spot on with that analogy. We, I don't know what it was in terms of, I don't know why we were so poor first half, and I don't know why we were so good second half, but I felt like it could have easily turned into a repeat of the Brighton game that we did watch together. We just seemed to really turn it on in the second half.
Yeah, it was really, really kind of exciting to talk about. But we finished the season in 11th position, which is one position higher than I thought we would finish at the beginning of the season, which I will just say now was completely luck. Like, it just seemed sensible. It wouldn't get me attacked by anybody if I said 11th or 12th. And I think I said 12th where nobody was going to say anything. Had I said, like 7th, everybody would have freaked out. If I would have said relegation, everybody would have freaked out. So I was just playing it safe, and I got pretty lucky. So I guess, pre-season, did you kind of foresee us finishing in this position?
So all I wanted pre-season was for Saints to sort of get back on track where we're sort of improving season on season. So we finished 16th last season. I think I hoped for something around maybe being brutally realistic. I was hoping for something around 14th. If you told me that we'd finished 11th, I'd be delighted. Obviously, fighting for mid-table is not exactly the most enthralling conclusion to a Saints season ever, but just to know that we're improving each season is something which is I've been clamoring for a very long time. And yeah, I just feel like after the Sheffield United game, I just feel very, very encouraged at how we could do going forward under RALPH.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, when I shut the TV off yesterday and kind of went about my day, I had a smile on my face the whole time because it was just, and it's very, very, there was no sense of relief. It was I'm a little bit sad that it's over, but I'm also really excited to see kind of what happens over the summer. There's talk of us, announcing a player any day now, and as part of this show, people will hear after we talk my conversation with Zach Lowy about Mohammed Salisu and on that. So people will hear that later. But it just seems like we're going in the right direction. I guess that I've had that feeling now for a couple of weeks, I guess, since the restart, and
yeah,
it's really, really nice to have that. Where I think going into previous seasons or exiting previous seasons, I remember Claude Puel kind of got booed on the last day. And then we had Mark Hughes
finishing 8th.
Yeah, and a cup final.
Finishing 8th. Yeah, and a cup final. Yeah.
And then we had Hughes, who I think, based on the back of that Swansea game where they were just worse than us, we gave him a contract extension that didn't work out. This is a better end of the season I think that we've had since Koeman, and I don't foresee any kind of negativity coming back over the summer where Koeman was obviously demanding things that didn't happen. I feel like everybody's more on the same page now, and that means that the system is working, the process is working, and hopefully we continue to smile and watch this all come crashing down by mid-August, and I'll be crying on air, but that's okay.
Well, at least you can edit out any tears.
I'll edit out like the heavy sob, but like I'll leave like the soft crying.
Yeah, you just hear tears splashing into the microphone. Yeah, I can't remember the last time I felt so optimistic. Mark Hughes, at the time, I hate saying this, I actually felt like it was an earned contract extension. Mm-hmm. It was a terrible decision in hindsight. Koeman, I was optimistic after his first season. His second season, that was doused when he left.
Yeah.
But even then, I kind of felt like enough had been set up in place where, just like when Pochettino went and all the players went with him, well, not directly with him, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I felt like, oh, well, Koeman's left, we'll just get someone else in, it'll be fine. Obviously, it didn't pan out over the seasons. And I just feel like we actually have a manager who wants to be there. And not only that, he's made such a visible impact on the team. I am genuinely excited to see what next season brings, and it's not too far away. So hopefully we don't lose any of our momentum. The team somehow looked among one of the fittest in the league, mm-hmm. despite the lockdown. And I just hope we can sort of continue what Ralph started since mid-June.
Yeah, I am definitely hoping that. And I was looking at kind of matches after we come back from breaks this season under Ralph, and we've been really good in those matches. All the stuff is in the newsletter from last week, but
sorry to interrupt. Is that because our players have been so that they're not on international breaks, and we can train them?
Partially, I think that definitely has something to do with it. The fact that they are there to have these ideas further beat into them, and to have them, and maybe that's the wrong way to put it, but like to have just to better understand their role in the system and how to work the system and do that. And I think that you can see how much better we've been, since that international break, post October and early November. And then they just have been so much better at playing within that system. And we've had a fairly consistent team in there. And my only kind of reservation was how far down the pecking order did that go, and how many players understood it, and were we not seeing more rotation because the other players didn't understand the system, or because this is what Ralph was comfortable with? And I don't know. I still don't have answers to that, but I'm using that at least to make myself think that when we come back from this break, it's not as long as normal in terms of summer, but we're going to be ready to go again. Like I have no reason to at this point to believe anything other than we'll be back and be ready to go and be better than we have been this season, next season. And I just hope that's correct.
Yeah, I'm with you. Touch wood and everything else. I can't see why we can't continue what we've got going on either. I don't know, maybe other teams may catch up in terms of fitness, but to be fair, everyone had like a fair amount of games to get through, and we still look good. Apart from the Arsenal game and the City game, we won, but obviously we probably weren't the better team in terms of play. We're at least a better team for a half, which is a remarkable improvement on last season, the early half of this season. I just hope we can continue momentum. I can't see us losing too many players that will make a huge difference to our starting lineup. I mean, Højbjerg didn't even make the bench yesterday. And Romeu, who as you have pointed out, I haven't always been totally complimentary of. I'd like to think we'd improve on that area of central midfield, but he's been perfectly fine there. So I can't see us losing any players that would make a big difference to our starting 11. And hopefully we can bring in some to at least bolster our squad, if not add some more quality in the starting team.
Yeah. And for people wondering what that was back on the Patreon episode where Romeu was in the match, and I think Freddie asked me what I thought about Romeu, and then I threw back to, I think it was Puel's first season, where people had nominated Romeu as kind of player of the season, and you were not having it. So I had a little bit of fun with you. But
yeah, I wasn't, and I stand by what I say. But also, I'm always of the opinion of I'd rather Saints players do well than not. So even if I'm not overly convinced by a player, I'm always willing for them to prove me wrong, because that benefits the team at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So yeah, more than happy with how Romeu has played. Another player who in the past I hadn't been too enamoured about has been James Ward-Prowse, and I think apart from Danny Ings, he's probably been our most impressive player this season. So I'm all for players to throw egg on my face.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the team sheet from yesterday, or the starting lineup. McCarthy, Walker, Peters, Vestergaard, Stevens make up the back four. Bednarak had a little bit of an issue. Bertrand's back there. Sorry, I forgot him. Then Romeu and Ward-Prowse in central midfield. Armstrong and Redmond playing ahead of them, and then Ings and Adams starting up top. I mean, if we would have looked at the beginning of the season, that was something that I think we could have foreseen. Although I think we would have thought Højbjerg would have been in there. Kind of fitting that we don't ever see him in the new kit, because he's probably not going to ever wear it. And I'm not sure how I feel about us wearing the new kit on the last day of the season. It seems like it's definitely like they want to sell things, and I understand that they need to, especially in this time when they're not selling tickets. Anything they get in is good. So I guess I'm okay with that. Anyway, I mean, is there any surprise with that, with the lineup given the injury to Bednarak, and you don't really want to risk him at this point? There's no real reason to play Danzo. You give Vestergaard one more chance to maybe put himself in the shop window, and then Walker, Peters, and Bertrand are really the only senior fullbacks that have really been great. I mean, I know Vokins has come in for Bertrand at points, but I think really if you're talking about the guys that are up to the Premier League standard at this point, those are the two guys that have to be there.
Yeah, on the Bednarak point, we mentioned earlier that the turnaround in between seasons is quite slim. So yeah, what's the point in risking him? Plus, yeah, it's another chance to put Vestergaard in the shop window. We did see him get absolutely rinsed for pace by a middle-aged Billy Sharp. So I don't know if Vestergaard did too much to boost his stock, but apart from that, I feel like he was serviceable enough. And yeah, the rest of the squad, a lot was made about, you get prize money at the end of the season based on your position. I think it's a matter of a few million from 12th to 11th. I don't see as why not to play a strong squad, even then it was conservative in terms of saving Bednarak from potentially aggravating a pre-existing injury. So yeah, no complaints with the squad, and I'm glad we were competitive. I think it showed against Brighton when we had a bit of a changed starting 11 that maybe some of our squad players and sort of youth academy products maybe quite aren't ready for first team football just yet.
Yeah, and they'll take time. They'll grow, and hopefully they'll be there.
They're getting the chances. That's the important thing.
Yeah, and I think that encourages you to stick around a little bit and not look for other places to go. And the ones that are approaching that quality. You'd think Smallbone came in yesterday as Armstrong had to go off with an injury, and he played well. He played both just ahead of the midfield too, and then later in the game came back and played next to Ward-Prowse. So all good things, I think, in terms of what they're seeing, and they're being integrated now, and I think that's super important going forward. And hopefully we continue to scout and add to the team underneath the first team and bring those guys through, so that when they get to the first team, they are ready to jump into that system. As long as RALPH is operating that way, I think it's fine.
Yeah, that's the important thing. Just even having our younger players sort of exposed to first team football, even if it's from the bench, they don't even come on. Just the fact that they're training with the first team, they're getting that full Premier League experience under their belts. That will serve them well alone, even if they don't play necessarily or don't get the minutes that they want. One thing I wanted to quickly say, Kevin Danso, I don't know how he felt being on that bench because he's been played out of position. A lot of the times he has featured for Saints this season as a makeshift right back, left back. And even when we signed him, I believe we signed him as a centre half. I'm surprised we didn't see him rotating the squad a little more after lockdown, and I think it's safe to say it's unlikely that we'll be extending his loan or keeping him on permanently. I was wondering what you thought about Danso as a whole, and if you think he has any chance of staying on at St.
No, I don't. I don't think he'll be here. Honestly, I thought that Augsburg had already announced that he was back, and then he was still on our team sheet.
I mean, they may have done that. I don't know, but I just find it weird that he didn't even really get a look in, even as a sub, really.
Yeah, honestly, I was thinking about it this morning before we recorded. You think about his experience coming over here and all of the buildup we had around him and what we thought he was going to be. And then like you think about if we sent a guy on loan and he never got a chance at his normal position, it's almost been in some ways a wasted year for him of development.
Yeah.
Like, he could have stayed and probably started a lot more games in his natural position and developed a lot more than coming over here and being played as a right-sided center back, being played as a left back.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things where, man, you feel for him a little bit, but no, I can't see us keeping around, especially with Salisu being rumored to be close. Yeah. You think that's the guy. So
it's
no,
really, it's really strange to think, but if you recall, Danso was signed on the last day of the transfer window late on, and he was almost being treated as the make or break for a successful transfer window. And he has barely played for us. I don't know if RALPH just doesn't rate him, or there's been some other circumstances we're not aware of. But yeah, he must be disappointed. It's almost a counterintuitive loan move in the end.
Yeah, and I mean, I just think about how disappointed I would be if one of our guys had that happen, and how upset I would be with the club that loaned him or that took him on loan. And I guess we'll never probably really know what happened there, because Vestergaard continues to get in the team, even though he, you would think anybody would fit the system a little bit better than Vestergaard, just given the pace. But
yeah,
Vestergaard can pass. He does have that long diagonal in him, which I love that. I don't. That foot race between him and Billy Sharp was amazing.
That was particularly bad, wasn't it? But we haven't even. I mean, since we've been confirmed to be safe from relegation, we haven't been playing for anything. We've played as if we're playing for something.
Mm-hmm.
I remember how shocked a lot of pundits and fans outside the Saints bubble were. Saints were playing. I think the term used often was playing as if it's a cup final, and everything was riding on that particular game. But yeah, I'm surprised that Danso wasn't thrown in for some of the less games, like even the Brighton game,
right?
Where we had a totally sort of reshaped team. Yeah, he didn't, as far as I'm aware, I don't think he featured at all.
No, I don't think he came in at all after the break, and I struggle to find it. I was thinking of the last time he actually played at all, which is not great if you're on loan and trying to develop. But whatever. We missed there, and it didn't work. And hopefully he recovers and does well next season. I don't wish him any ill will. He didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah, still young. I hope he's gained something from the loan. I feel bad if he has wasted a year.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about some moments of the match, because although I mentioned kind of the first half, second half, kind of mirroring our season a little bit, we got ourselves into some trouble, and we're let off by Billy Sharp not being sharp in terms of when he chose to shoot or pass or whatever he was doing. We had a situation where I thought Ings was fouled on the edge of the area or in the area. Nothing given. They immediately play a ball down the channel, and it's a foot race between Sharp and Vestergaard, who just gets rinsed basically. And I don't know what Sharp's doing. He just holds on too long, and McCarthy comes up with a save, and we get kind of lucky there. There was another instance where McCarthy just gave the ball away, like passed it straight to him. And then, I want to say Romeu kind of came in to clean it up, and Stevens helped out a little bit there too. But we definitely got away with some mistakes on Sunday. And you just wonder if, I guess, Sheffield are a little bit sharper. Maybe we don't get away with it. Maybe we're down 2 or 3-0 by halftime.
Yeah, I don't know what it was, but we definitely looked shaky first half. That foot race between Vestergaard and Sharp will live long in the memory. And I think
that's because it took 75 seconds for them to run 50 yards.
And I think Sharp only messed that chance up because he was so shocked that he won a foot race. But he even shrugged him off as if Vestergaard wasn't even there. And Vestergaard's what, 6'7", 6'8"?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sharp should have done a lot better, and that was before they'd taken the lead, if I remember rightly. So yeah, they had chances. We were definitely fortunate to come in to the second half only 1-0 down. Yeah,
I would say at some point Armstrong lost the ball kind of in the middle of the park and was down injured immediately after. He stayed on, and then my kind of question was that cross for the goal, all kinds, just not great defending, which is not anything new for us. But Armstrong wasn't really there to close the ball down. I think he was already injured. And I just kind of think, like, if there's more pressure on the ball because Armstrong was able to carry on, basically, like maybe that cross doesn't come in the right way, but still then the ball bounces in the area. Everybody's slow to react. I think it goes through Vestergaard's legs, and Lundstrom just kind of pounces on it and scores. And it's just really sloppy to give away. But, it is what it is. And I thought we responded well. We kind of got a little bit better going forward. After that, Smallbone comes in for Armstrong and plays well. And then, I don't even ever know what happens in the locker room, but Ralph tends to get the best out of them when I think he points out what's going on. And maybe there's another player in there who was doing it. Obviously, I used to think it was Højbjerg who would get on the team, but maybe it's not because he obviously wasn't there. So I just wonder about some of those things, and then we just seem to just blow them out of the water as the game went on. They seem to run out of legs, and we seem to just keep going, which is something that we talked about as well with our fitness.
Yeah, as discouraging as it is with some of the games where we've had such poor starts in, it's equally as encouraging that we seem to be able to totally reverse the game in a positive way. Also, we just need to, eliminate or find out the reason why we can be sluggish in periods of times in games, and just try and sort of prolong the periods where we're the better side. I don't know whether it's like a very subtle tactical thing that we can't see from the outside looking in, or if it is just a simple case of Ralph or another player, essentially giving the hairdryer treatment at halftime. Not sure what it is. But at least we have, we have it within our squad to reverse the fortunes of a match. That we just need to eradicate the sort of periods of play where we're not so at the races.
Yeah, and just the couple of times it seems to happen every game where we just switch off for a second, and sometimes we're punished and sometimes we're not. And I think we saw both the best and the worst of McCarthy yesterday. Came up with some big saves one-on-one, made some stops, made some claims, but then also just passed the ball to the other team. And it's just one of those things where that is the flaw in his game in terms of us playing out from the back, is he's not the best with his feet, but he does some of the other things well. You have Gunn, who's better with his feet, but can't seem to stop a shot. And then Fraser Forrester is just kind of who knows where that really goes, and what he's going to be like when he comes back. But as we mentioned, the second half, much better. I'll be honest, I missed the first 5 minutes. I came back and we were level, mostly because I burnt my oatmeal and I had to start over, and that was not a good sign. But we were good, and that first goal from Adams, I think, almost stings like, where the ball is just there and he fires it home, and there's no time to think, no worrying about it, just reacting and being first to react, which is something that I think is so good to see from our team. because at the opposite end of the goal we conceded, Lundstrom was there to react faster than Bertrand and everybody else.
Yeah, that Che Adams goal is the epitome of a confidence goal. The shot didn't really look on. Henderson should have done better in reality, but the fact that he had the ball at his feet, he managed to shift it out, just at least try and fire a shot on target, which he did, and fortunately for us, it went in. That goes to show, just how much getting that first goal out of the way for Adams has done for him, and obviously he's starting to rack them up now.
Yeah. I mean, what is it? 4 in his last 6 games there after going over 30. It's nice to see him doing that, and it gives me some encouragement going forward, I think, and it should be encouraging to all of us that hopefully this partnership is going to work. And then, if we can get some goals and spread them around a little bit, I think that'll be good, because Ings, didn't get the golden boot, but did score just an absolute ton of goals and was a pleasure to watch. And luckily he wants to stay, so I don't think he'll be going anywhere. Yeah,
I mean, all the positive signs are there between Adams and Ings as a partnership. And the season's so long. This season has been so long, sorry. It is easy to forget that Adams was the starting striker to begin the season. Obviously, he didn't have the best time of it, and he was actually quite unlucky. I remember the Sheffield United game away, he hit the post. But his poor form also coincided with Saints not playing particularly well either. You can make an argument that Saints started playing better when Ings became the first choice striker, but also as a sort of direct result of the Leicester game, I believe RALPH switched up his system, which has obviously served us very well since. But it's the fact that we can now play with both of them on the pitch, and they both look equally as comfortable in their respective roles. I definitely see that being a positive. And if either Ings or Adams are unavailable, I feel Long is more than comfortable filling the Adams role.
Yeah.
And Ings can do his thing, or if Long has to come in for Ings, I feel like Adams could play the Ings role.
Yeah.
I feel like for the first time in a long time, we have some viable attacking options in the centre of the pitch, where I kind of feel comfortable no matter what combination of players are featured from the off. And that's not even mentioning Obafemi, who is more than capable as well.
Yeah. I would say the second goal from Adams is along the same lines too. The KWP cuts in, gets a shot away. I don't know if it goes off the midsection or what it is, but Adams is just there to pounce on it again and hammer it home. And then I think the only one of the questions that came up is, we get the penalty late on, and the guy, Adams, has struggled to score all year. All of a sudden has 4 in 6 games, is on a hat trick, and we get a penalty, and Ings steps up to take it. And it's like, oh no, like, I don't want there to be any kind of, animosity between the two. And it didn't, they didn't show it if there was, but, Ings takes it, dispatches it, gets the monkey off his back in terms of missing the one last week. Isn't going to get the golden boot because it just wasn't going to happen. But you have any problem with that, or you think Adams should have been allowed to take it just to complete the hat trick?
Mixed feelings, but I'd say 80% of me would rather Ings take the penalty. Like, I'm all for Adams to get more goals to build up his confidence going forward, but I just feel you even saw it in the sort of last 5 minutes of the game. Saints were still full of energy, but there were players like Redmond who I almost felt like every ounce of effort he was putting into the game was to try and help Ings. And Ings was actually playing quite selflessly, which was surprising because, we all know how much he wanted the golden boot.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like that was probably a decision made before the game had even started. And I think the whole team was almost willing Ings to at least equal Vardy in the dying embers of the match. So I have no problem with it at all.
Yeah, I think the only thing I really wanted at the end of the match was I just kept screaming to get Ings another chance. Like, why are we playing around with it? Why are we passing it? Get the ball forward. Get it just get him the ball. Let him try to, I don't care where he shoots from. Just get him a chance. But it didn't
we
happen.
we actually started playing quite sloppily towards the end because I think they were trying to get the ball to him. And the way Ings sort of moves, he's quite often in the channels. So he'd often find himself with the ball, but trying to get rid of it as quickly as possible so he can find some kind of advanced position where he could find himself with a chance. So they were trying, but it was all in vain in the end. Yeah. At least he was second. I didn't want him to get overtaken on the last day.
Right. No, it's not often. I don't think I'd have to check. I could be completely wrong that you have two English players at the top of the goal scoring chart. For the race for the Golden Boot, where it was two English players. I don't think that's happened probably in a long time. I could be completely wrong again. Things I shouldn't say without checking beforehand, but I'm confident enough. I'm probably gonna leave that in.
I'm confident enough to agree with you, but I don't know either.
I don't know, man. Just the whole thing yesterday. The start of the game wasn't great, but it is the last day. There's kind of a celebratory thing. I know some of the patrons of the show, we were kind of chatting during the game, and Dave Lee, who lives in California, which means it was an 8:00 kickoff, was at least 122-ounce Russian Imperial Stout deep as the game was getting underway, which is, I think I got to salute him for that. We were having a pretty good time, but it just got so much better when the team started to play better in the second half. And I think really showed how much they've grown and progressed from the beginning of the season to now, or then if you want to say from the Everton game to now, or the 9-0 to now, whatever it is, we're not the same team we were in October. And I think that Ralph and the players and the coaching staff and everybody behind the scenes should take a lot of credit for that and not just rest on it and continue to move forward. And I think they will, but I just think they deserve to be commended for what they've done, because I think they've turned around a fan base a little bit that was extremely negative, extremely pessimistic, and really doubting our ability to kind of get better and if it was ever going to happen. Maybe I'm speaking too broadly. Maybe it's just me, but I really do feel that way. I really do feel like that now where we're at is 100 times a complete turnaround, I guess, from where we were, and I just couldn't be happier with it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with pretty much everything you just said. We haven't mentioned the defeat yet. I won't mention the scoreline or the team, because everyone knows what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. I bet, people were down on the team, and with good reason. I definitely thought we were dead and buried at some stage of the season, probably around after that loss. Obviously, we were in a relegation zone for a while. But yeah, just the Christmas period really showed how much resolve the Saints team have. I don't know whether it was, to get a battering like we did. Maybe that was the sort of kick up the arse the team needed. It obviously didn't panic the board too much. We didn't panic buying January. Ralph rightly kept his job. I'll be honest, even after a loss of that scale, I found it pretty ridiculous that he was any sort of mention of getting rid of RALPH HASENHUTTL. Found that pretty ridiculous, even after such a poor performance like that.
Yeah.
I've mentioned this before. I feel like the reverse game against Leicester, where we win from behind, mm-hmm. the whole backstory of the Leicester, before the game, the Leicester media team are playing highlights with commentary as Saints are warming up of that defeat. That was almost a perfect storm to really sort of stick two fingers up at Leicester for one, but also any of the doubters of this team and the manager. And ever since then, I say ever since then. Before that, we got some great results against Chelsea and Spurs as well. But ever since then, we've not really looked back. Since the restart, apart from that Arsenal game, we've been brilliant.
Yeah.
And just the nature of having such a long break, it's almost easy to forget how bad we were at some stages of this season. And we just looked a totally transformed side, and with very little, changes of the squad in the meantime.
Yeah.
We had a relatively quiet summer transfer window. We've already talked about Danso being sort of heralded as this sort of defining signing on the last day of the transfer window, and he barely played at all. Kind of sums everything up. Adams was obviously the marquee signing, and it's taken the restart for him to find his form, and Saints fortunately have looked brilliant along with it.
Yeah. Just looking at Danzo, he managed a total of 601 minutes across all competitions for us this season, just 10 appearances. Not great, but like you said, the team progressed and did well. I should say that the penalty question about should Ings have given the penalty to Adams, that came from Kevin McGee, one of the patrons of the show. We have several other questions. I don't know if we'll get to all of them, but they will make good talking points next week as well, so we'll just roll them over. But one, we were kind of talking about this Leicester thing, the game we lost 9-0. I don't even care about talking about it because at this point I just think it's hilarious that everybody has to bring it up all the time. But Justin Woodward, another one of the patrons, asked, do you think we get the same result, the same kind of, do you think we finish the season as strongly or get the turnaround we got if we would have only lost that game by 2 goals? Or and then one of the other patrons of the show points out that, if you just take the XG for the game and round up, it would have been 5-0. Do you think that we get the same kind of bounce back, or do you think that it had to be such a devastating result and such a put it on the calendar, we're going to hear about it every time going forward? If it's not one of those results, do you think we get the same kind of the bounce from it, I guess?
Really, really good question. I actually feel like we needed, I think regardless of how the season ended, I actually feel like we needed a bit of a hiding like we received from Leicester. As I mentioned, the Leicester away game really showed how much it affected the team. There was the now infamous photo of Jack Stevens doing his Ayoze Perez impression as Saints get the winner. It clearly affected the team, but it could have easily affected the team in a worse way, where totally bereft of confidence. We weren't playing well at the time anyway in the lead up to that defeat, and we didn't play too well after the defeat either. But I feel like that was maybe the kick up Saints needed, that things weren't right, and it also prompted some tactical changes from RALPH, which has obviously served us well since. Mm-hmm. And if we simply lost 2-0 at home, maybe that wouldn't have happened. I think regardless, I think it's, I almost feel like the Saints were sort of walking into a disaster like that anyway. So for it to happen, to all come ahead in one match where we concede almost double-digit numbers of goals, I feel like that maybe sort of accelerated any changes the team really needed addressing sooner.
Yeah, absolutely. On a positive note from that, I think we definitely finished strong. And one thing, I guess my biggest kind of regret about this season in terms of the Premier League as a whole is you had so many teams that were playing, they were overachieving, and they were, or maybe they weren't overachieving, they're just playing so well, and it looked like we were going to have some shakeup in the top 4. And at the end of the day, it's the usual suspects that are up there. Yes, Tottenham slipped a little bit, and Arsenal finished 8th, but Sheffield United, who was obviously came up from the Championship and were expected to be relegated again because they didn't really add anybody and things like that. They looked like they were going to potentially challenge for Europe, and they didn't get there. To watch Leicester City fall out of the Champions League places, I feel a little bit for them, even though obviously we're going to be linked to them for some time. But it would have been much better to have that happen by the team that finished 3rd and got into the Champions League than the team who got into the Europa League and nobody really cares about. So I don't know.
Well, I'm not sure if there is like a an actual correlation. I did see since the Leicester defeat, Saints earned more points than Leicester did for the rest of the season. But I actually feel like our win at Leicester either began or sort of caused, maybe not cause isn't the right word. I feel like maybe our win at Leicester was the beginning of their sort of run of poor form as well. I always like to see things shaping up at the top, whether Saints are involved or not. I can't say I'm too upset about Leicester throwing it away. All it takes is for me to remember how Jamie Vardy shushed our crowd after banging in a penalty to make it 9-0 for some reason. All I need to do is think about that and think, yeah, actually, I'm not too fussed about them falling at the last hurdle.
Well, and then he's the guy that keeps things from getting the golden boot too. And it's you think back, that penalty goal was one of those goals, and it's just like, okay, well now I hate them again. So thanks for I don't know. I'm happy they missed out now. But thank you for changing my mind on that.
Don't worry.
But Jake, this has been wonderful. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. It's always a pleasure to be able to reminisce on things that are good and happy, and we can kind of end the season on a high note. And we'll get to all of the questions next week. I'll set aside more time. It just didn't quite work out. But thank you again, man. And I hope that you continue to be well, and hopefully this form continues into next season.
Yeah, thank you. It's always great talking to you, Matt, before and during the podcast. And yeah, I can't remember the last time I felt so good. Seeing Saints close off the season. We didn't let up any steam, despite being safe from relegation for quite a few games. And I'd like to hope that we'll continue in a similar vein. I can't see why not.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, if people want to follow you on Twitter, they can do that at JJHughes_. You're also at St. Mary's Musings. And the link to St. Mary's Musings, where people can go and find more articles and things about the club, is there. You're also partnered with the Oh When the Saints podcast, which is out and available wherever you listen to podcasts. There will be a link in the show notes to them as well. You're also on there this week, so people can go there and hear more. Hopefully, I asked different questions. It's not just a repeat, but
you did well. Don't worry.
Okay, all right. I'll take that.
I just hope people don't get sick of hearing my voice.
I mean, you have a significant other, and she's still around, so I'm going to say you're all right.
Yeah, I'm doing something just about right, I'm sure.
All right, man. Well, we'll talk to you soon, and thanks again.
Thank you.
And that was Jake Hughes, editor of St. Mary's Musings. You can get in touch with him on Twitter at JJHughes_. You can also follow St. Mary's Musings at St. Mary's Musings on Twitter. And we'll now turn from looking back at last season to looking forward to hopefully Saints' newest signing, or soon to be signing. The rumors are that it's all done now and just waiting on the team to announce Mohammed Salisu. And I'll be honest, I didn't really know a lot about Salisu, and you can watch YouTube clips and you can kind of read up on things. And one of the people that I came across that had done some really good work on Salisu was Zach Lowy of BreakingTheLines.com. You can follow him on Twitter at Zach Lowy and at BTLVid. If you're not familiar with Breaking the Lines, you can check them out. It's quite interesting. Lots of good stories, lots of good analysis as well. So Zach had written a scouting report on Salisu, and he just kind of helped break down kind of where he's going to fit into the team and things like that. Helped answer and clarify a lot of questions that I had, and I hope it does the same for you. The patrons of the show got early access to this as one of the benefits of being a patron, but now you all get it here as well. So I hope you enjoy it, and we'll get into that now. And thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you on the other side. So it's my pleasure to welcome to the show Zach Lowy. You can find him on Twitter at Zach Lowy. He's the co-creator of Breaking the Lines video. It's at BTLVid, and you can get more from him at BreakingTheLines.com. Zach, been a big fan of your work for a long time. Seen a lot of stuff come from Breaking the Lines and BTLVid, and it's a pleasure to be able to chat with you today. And we're here to talk about Southampton's hope. What we all assume at this point will be the new signing, may be announced by the time this episode comes out. But as of Friday, it's rumored that he's coming. But yeah, how are you, man?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me on. It's a pleasure to come on and talk about Mohammed Salisu. We actually ran a scouting report on Salisu on Breaking the Lines a few months prior. Very talented player, and if Southampton can pull off this signing, I definitely think it'll be the defensive reinforcement that they've been waiting for really since Virgil van Dijk left.
Yeah. We supposedly we made this signing a couple of times in terms of we signed Vestergaard, we signed a couple other center backs that just haven't quite worked out or brought in guys on loan and stuff like that. But Salisu, just watching some of the highlights and reading up on the report that you guys ran, he looks really, really, really good. But before we jump into that, can you just give just a brief kind of overview of what BTL Vid is and what Breaking the Lines is? That way, if anybody isn't familiar with it, they can know a little bit more about it and how to get there.
Yeah, Breaking the Lines, it's BTL Vid on Twitter. It is a football analysis site. So we do pretty much a bit of everything. Today we ran a piece on Norwich City's relegation and where it all went wrong for them after winning the championship last season. We also ran a piece on Irene Gonçalves, who is considered the best player in Angolan women's football history. So we do a bit of everything solely relating to football, but really stretching the boundaries and always committing to uniqueness and quality every single time. So you can check out the Salisu piece on the site as well as a few other great articles that we're putting out every day.
All right. Well, and I'll link to all those in the show notes. So the link to Breaking the Lines and BTL Vid is there, and then we'll also link directly to the Salisu article in case anybody wants to kind of read up a little bit more on what we're talking about today. But I guess my question is how does a guy like Salisu get noticed among all of the other talent in Ghana? How does he even come to arrive in Spain? If you could kind of give us, I guess, what about him stood out to the scouts, and I think the guy's name is Fran Castaño, I think. But what makes him kind of recognizable or stand out to him initially?
It's interesting because before Salisu joined Real Valladolid's U21, U19 side, he had not played a competitive match, really, of 11v11. So incredibly raw when he came to Valladolid, which I believe was in October 2017. The fact that he's managed to grow in value despite having a pretty informal footballing education has been pretty remarkable. And I actually interviewed Fran Castaño on my Spanish language podcast a few months ago, and we spoke about his path in making the African Football Talent Academy in Ghana, but as well as the Salisu, what kind of player he is. When he first showed up to training, he did not have a pair of cleats, a pair of boots. So he had to have a friend of his or a teammate loan him boots until he could get some. But yeah, it was just a very interesting interview. But basically, Castaño offered Salisu to a variety of Spanish clubs, and he has a decent amount of connections in Spanish clubs because he worked in the technical sector of several Spanish clubs. But the only team that was interested in taking him was Real Valladolid, which was because I believe the U19 or the U23 coach he had already formed a special connection with Castaño, so he was I forgot his name, I think it was Fernandez something, but he was basically saying, you know what, I trust Castaño's eye for talent, I will take him. He saw a few games himself, but anyways, he went to Valladolid, really shot up, did well in every single level that he played at, whether that's the U19s, whether that's the playing for Valladolid's B team in the second division. Really did well in every single one of the levels that he played at, and was even given his competitive debut at the first team level in January 2019, I believe, against Getafe in a Copa del Rey match. Didn't really play that much until this season, though, which happened because it's really a product of a chain of events in the transfer world. Fernando Calero, who had been very good in Valladolid's first season back up in the Primera in 2018-19, he left for Espanyol, and in the waning days of the summer transfer window, because he was going to replace Mario Hermoso, an Espanyol who had left to join Atletico Madrid, who himself was coming to Atletico to replace both Lucas Hernandez and Diego Godin, who had left. So it was really all a chain of events, and honestly, at the end of the day, I think you can make the argument that out of all the players from that chain of events, Salisu has probably been probably the best off. I mean, Lucas Hernandez himself has failed to crack the starting lineup at Bayern and struggled with injuries. Hermoso is still sort of a fringe player at Atletico. Calero has been a pretty big flop. But on the end of that chain of events, Salisu has been pretty incredible for him. And it's just fascinating because Valladolid actually did better this season than they did last season, despite not really signing a replacement for Calero. You know, they really just trusted their academy team. They brought in a few players on loan, but Salisu was the man who immediately from the onset stepped into that starting spot and formed a really good center back pairing with Pico Olivas, who was really a steady head and leader in the heart of Valladolid's defense. I do think it'll be a bit of a struggle for Salisu at the start without Olivas next to him because he was just so crucial. But you know, it remains to be seen how he will adapt to RALPH HASENHUTTL style, and also what center back partner would be better for him.
Yeah, I did have a question about that because Southampton don't have that kind of steady senior center back that can kind of coach someone through. And you see a lot of fans, at least on Twitter, which is not always the best kind of barometer of what everybody thinks, but a lot of people on Twitter are thinking it's going to be Bednarak and Salisu. And one thing that I kind of gathered from kind of watching is I saw him give away a couple of penalties. He didn't pick up a ton of cards, I didn't think, but he seemed to be very aggressive in terms of winning the ball and engaging in duels, and he won a high percentage of them. But that fits more, it seems like, it to me, it seems like we need somebody else that's going to sit behind him and let him be that kind of aggressor. And I worry about not having that, especially at the Premier League level, where I imagine guys will kind of suck him in a little bit and maybe kind of bait him into giving away fouls. Do you see that as being a problem? It sounds like maybe it might be just need some time to grow. It sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely needs plenty of time to grow. You have to remember that, you know, not only is he 21, I think 20 years old. He's also really only just coming off his first season in an elite league. So yeah, he is error prone at times, a bit rash, I would say. But those things, you know, they will come and improve. Besides that, I think we've seen that Salisu is able to, you know, take on challenges wherever he goes, and you know, he's a very complete defender. Athletically, I mean, there really aren't many that are better than him in the Premier League. He's, you know, superb in the air. He's got really good covering speed. There are certain things that he needs to work on, though. I mean, he can be a bit rash when it comes to challenges and give away fouls, as well as he can be a bit punky when turning on the ball. But for the most part, I think that the main thing is just taming his aggression, which is something that, you know, is seen with really any young defender, even players such as Matthijs de Ligt, who, you know, joined Juventus for 75 million last summer. So that's just something that Southampton fans are going to have to accept with a player both so cheap and so young. But yeah, in general, I do think that Salisu has all that it takes to become a success at the Premier League level. And I do think that, you know, in terms of the move, you know, there are a lot of rumors that link him to teams such as Arsenal, Manchester United, teams that are definitely of a higher caliber than Southampton and a higher level and a higher pressure. I think it's good that Salisu goes to a team of Southampton's caliber, which is, a stepping stone club, obviously, but that also has a quality coach in RALPH HASENHUTTL who can, who is a top talent producer and has been known to work with these players and develop them. So I think that he's made a good choice. I know that Rennes were the other team that were in for him, but and he will definitely miss out on playing Champions League football if he does join Southampton. But if sometimes it's just better to be a bit more patient and wait and improve, and then perhaps in 2022, 2023, he'll get the opportunity to play Champions League football.
Sure. Southampton have this kind of, I guess, this history of, especially now I guess the scouting network is shifting to find these guys that are still young in their careers who have potential to grow because we kind of do have this self-sustaining model. And we had players like Bednarak that we signed for big money coming out of the Polish first division, but not big money really. And people were worried about him. He is actually kind of developed and blossomed. It's taken a couple of years. Didn't have an immediate impact, but has been a consistent starter for us this season. Musa Janebo, another one that came to us and has struggled with injuries and things like that. Do you foresee Salisu being a starter at Southampton, or do you think he's going to have to wait a year or so to make an impact?
I think that he'll probably have to wait a few weeks, maybe even months, to get a consistent chance to be a starter. Just because I think that in general, the Bednarak-Stevens pairing has done fairly well, and that while Salisu, in my opinion, has a lot higher potential than either of those two, he's still going to need to learn the ropes of playing in a new team, playing in a new league, playing under a new manager. So I'm not sure he starts immediately, but I could definitely foresee him starting like midway through the season, eventually gaining a spot. He definitely seems like he would be an upgrade both on Bednarak and Stevens in certain degrees, but it does remain to be seen if he can form a good pairing with them. Mm-hmm. I think that Stevens probably has more ability on the ball than Bednarak, which is definitely a positive from Salisu's point of view. But that being said, I also think that Bednarak is a better defender than Stevens in that he's a lot less prone to errors in 1v1 duels. Mm-hmm. He's a lot more imposing in the air. But I'm not totally sure yet if Salisu does get into the lineup in his first season, which I believe he will. I'm still not quite sure who would be the best partner for him. I would lean towards Bednarak. But I think in order for that to happen, either Bednarak or Salisu, preferably both, would have to take a step up, not just in terms of being less rash, but also in terms of being more consistent on the ball and more better at progressing. So it definitely depends.
Yeah, Stevens is definitely better in terms of distribution, and even Vestergaard, I would say his passing range is a little bit better probably than Bednarak's. And so I think we may have the two best defenders on the field if it's Bednarak and Salisu, but maybe the passing range out of the back isn't there, and there doesn't seem, and at least from what I saw, he doesn't seem to be the one to step into midfield and bring the ball forward a little bit. So that once again, he's young. This will take time, and as you said before, he hadn't really played 11v11 until he got kind of picked up in this academy, and so he's got a lot of time, and it seems like he has all the physical attributes to do it. And it also seems like he didn't fold under the pressure of making mistakes. When he gave away a penalty, he didn't crumble. Then he still played, quite well, and came back and played in. And the defense was better, almost a quarter of a goal per game less, or allowed less with him in the lineup versus not having him in the lineup. So I'm actually quite excited. And for once, we're linked with a player that seems to fit all of the criteria that the club are looking for. And I feel like this isn't just a kind of a pipe dream for us to land a player like this. And it looks like we could have a really a really fun player to watch, and another chance to watch a player grow and blossom into something really, really great. Do you have, I mean, just for anybody who hasn't seen him play, I guess what's the first thing that jumps out to you about him, and then we'll wrap this up and let you get on with your day.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that jumps out to me is probably his athletic ability, both in terms of closing down players as well as being very, indomitable in the air. Not many strikers who are going to win an aerial ball with him, even in a league such as the Premier League. I think that not only is he good in defending crosses and long balls, he's also good at just anticipating the path of play and winning aerial duels. Does need to work on, I would say, ball watching as well as just focus. He is prone to some concentration errors sometimes, which obviously comes with a young player such as Salisu. But in general, I think that he sort of reminds me of Presnel Kimpembe on Paris Saint-Germain in that he is a solid player on the ball. He doesn't make too many mistakes in terms of rash passes or giving the ball away. He's very good physically, and yeah, I mean, I think that the athleticism part, you won't find many center backs who are superior to him in that regard. Obviously, Van Dijk is an upgrade in that regard, but he's an upgrade pretty much any other defender. So I think that I do think that Salisu, I mean, physically, it's hard to find a center back that cheap and that complete in all those degrees. It's not just aerial ability; it's also just closing down players and knowing how to react. I think that he's obviously a raw prospect, but I do think that Southampton is the right club for him to just develop. You won't have that much pressure, and it remains to be seen whether he will start from the get-go or not. I personally don't think that Hasenhüttl will break up the Stevens-Bednarek partnership immediately, but say they have a loss, an embarrassing loss against Arsenal or Leicester, then perhaps we could see something change. But it does. I do think that Salisu has really everything it takes to become a success at Southampton. In fact, his central defense has been one of their weak spots for a while, since Van Dijk left, and as well as Jose Font. He's going to be lacking a player like Font, like Olivas, who's more level-headed, more experienced, and who can, guide him in that regard. But I do think that Hasenhüttl is the right coach for him to develop under. And English is his first language, so he probably won't have too much difficulty adapting to the culture, adapting to the language. But yeah, in general, he's mentally. When I was speaking with Fran Castaño, and he said that he's a player who's mentally he's a leader, despite being kind of a shy guy. But he's also a player who you need to put challenges in front of him so that he can keep on working, keep on improving. But from the mental and the physical aspect, looks like a very top player, and it's just phenomenal. It's incredible how quickly he's grown. One funny story that Castaño was talking about. He didn't think that Salisu would be a top player. He had doubts about him at the start because he would show up late to training. He obviously didn't have boots at the start of his practice. He did not play in any competitive matches where he went to Spain. As well as I think there was this one tournament or one game where he actually left his passport in the bathroom. So Castaño was, very upset at him. But it's definitely clear that he has grown in both the physical and the mental aspect. And, it's not easy to start in La Liga, but he's done it, and he's done it very well against some of the best forwards in European football. So while he is a bit raw and a bit unrefined, I think that Southampton are getting a player with with a lot of potential.
All right. Well, I'm like I said before, I'm super excited to watch him come in, and hopefully we can help him develop, and hopefully we can enjoy what we see while that happens. And then Southampton, the kind of ideally he would make a step up after that to a bigger club for a substantial fee and allow the team to continue to build. And sometimes that frustrates Southampton fans, but really I think we just need to kind of enjoy it and realize that we're getting somebody that we can hopefully watch come along for the next couple of years. I guess my only other question is, do you foresee him getting into the national team for Ghana, or is that, I don't see anything. I was looking around at transfer market and things like that. He doesn't seem to be kind of have any appearances or connection to that. Do you see that, foresee that coming along if he continues to progress?
Definitely. I mean, I'm surprised that he hasn't been called up to the Black Stars yet, but Ghana have had some issues in the past. And so they really need to work on like bringing in the new breed, the new generation of Ghanaian players, and Salisu is definitely right up there. I think he's probably the best center back that they have at the moment. So I think that he can be, a key part of that spine with players such as Thomas Partey, potentially Jordan Ayew. Ghana has a lot of potential that still needs to be unlocked for them to challenge for the AFCON. But I do think that Salisu, definitely if he starts playing regularly for Southampton or wherever he ends up, I definitely see him becoming a starter for Ghana. But it's hard to say because there's been a lot of kind of questionable decisions that have happened with the coach and the footballing association. But we'll see. I think that Salisu definitely has the potential to become one of Africa's top center backs. Yeah.
All right. Well, Zach, I just want to say thanks again. I appreciate all of your work. I've been a big fan of your work for a long time, and it's a pleasure to be able to talk with you about this and about Salisu. And I think the listeners will appreciate it as well. And I just hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. If you want to follow you on Twitter, you're at Zach Lowy. You are the co-creator of Breaking the Lines video, and that's at BTLvid. And the website is breakingthelines.com for more, fascinating and fantastic stories and features on all across the world of football. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate your effort that you put into this. And hopefully I can talk to you at some point in the future when we're making another signing that I honestly haven't heard of.
Yeah, of course. It was a pleasure to come on. Hopefully I helped some of your listeners understand a little bit more about Salisu, and hope to be back on in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you. And that does it for this week's episode of the Southampton Delivery Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed it. Special thanks this week goes out to both Jake Hughes of St. Mary's Music. You can find him on Twitter at JJHughes_ and also on Twitter at St. Mary's Musings, and Zach Lowy, who helped us get a better idea of what Mohammed Salisu will bring to Saints. Fingers crossed he's actually announced. You can follow Zach on Twitter at Zach Lowy and also at BTLvid. You can check out breakingthelines.com as well for more stories and things from all around the world of football. I do have to apologize to Zach because I talked with him before I actually talked to Jake. Then I accidentally left Zach in the group that I use, the Skype chat that I use for this show. Jake called me. It woke Zach up. It's my fault. I'm sorry. The show has now finished its 4th season, and it would not be possible without the partners of the show. So the Southampton page on Twitter, at Southampton page, and on Instagram at Southampton page 1. Thank you for everything. Matt Beeling of the We Are Southampton page on Instagram does the logo for the show and also helped me spend way too much time helping me figure out how to do certain things graphically. So I appreciate all of that. And to all of you who have listened this season, whether it was from the very beginning or whether you're just picking up now, thank you. I appreciate your time. It really does mean a lot. And to the patrons as well. You guys have helped keep this show going, and it's been a really fun year and a half with you, and I look forward to doing plenty more. All music for the show comes courtesy of the Free Music Archive at freemusicarchive.org. The intro song is Epic Song by Boxcat Games, and the end of show credits that you're listening to right now is Aim is True by Poddington Bear. If you're interested in helping support the show, please consider leaving a review on iTunes or wherever you listen. Share the show with a friend, or head on over to patreon.com/SFC Delivery. It all helps. I appreciate it, and I look forward to talking to you again next week. But until then, remember that together, we march on. And a special thanks to Jake Hughes of St. Mary's Musings again for joining me. There's the dog. Hey. Stop.